We're going to begin making our veal stock. This is a recipe and technique that we developed for the home cook using a pressure cooker, which in the late 1600s was called a steam digester, developed by a gentleman named Denis Papin, who presented this in London and used actually bones like these with a little bit of meat on it to demonstrate how he could turn something that was tough into something that was nutritious and tender. So now we call them pressure cookers. We're going to go ahead and start our process. We have our veal bones, our ossobuco, which we've cut up. Again, the purpose for that is to get more surface, to get more color, more extraction of flavor. This is what we want to do to make our veal stock. Just to give you a quick demo on that, you're just cutting it into pieces. Once again, we want to get as much exposure, much surface exposure as possible. Those tendons, which are very, very prevalent in shanks, also extract as much gelatin as we possibly can. We have our oven on 425. I'm just going to toss this with a little bit of vegetable oil. Once again, the vegetable oil that we use is just a neutral vegetable oil. And we're adding the fat to this, or the oil to this, so that we get an opportunity to start the cooking process. As the oil heats, it'll start that cooking process and keep some moisture on our meat and our bones. Helps accelerate the heat. So a pressure cooker, this is going to be at 15 psi, or pounds per square inch in pressure by the time we get it to the temperature we want it. We know that because we have two red bars on here, and the second bar represents that 15 pounds. It elevates the temperature that things cook at. So in essence, it'll cook them much faster. In this case, we want to be able to cook it faster and extract as much flavor through that cooking process without losing any of the liquid. So because it's covered and sealed, the condensation stays inside, and all that moisture will stay inside, and all those flavors will be maintained. The steam is what increases the internal pressure in the pressure cooker. Let's go ahead and put these in our oven. Now these will roast for 45 minutes. We want to make sure they're nice and caramelized. You may want to take and just move them around after half an hour, see how they're doing. You always want to be aware of what's going on. We're going to go ahead and brulee an onion. So what we have here is we're going to have three ingredients that are going to impact the color of our stock. Number one, the roasting of the veal bones. So that roasting quality will impact the color, give it the deep brown, as well as some flavor. We have tomato, which of course again will give it more color. And then we're gonna go ahead and brulee an onion. And bruleeing an onion means to burn an onion. And we're going to cut it in half. Again, the surface is important to get as much surface as we possibly can exposed. And you see, this is the surface that we want to brulee. Just a little bit of oil. So in a pressure cooker, we're not skimming our stock of fat and impurities. We'll realize a very clean stock because of the way it's cooked, and be able to have almost a clear stock when it comes out, without having to skim as we go. So we're just going to start our onion here. Now, you don't want to move them around. We just want to actually let them burn. They're going to be black when they're done. So we had a high heat. We're going to just turn it down to a medium-high heat. Mise en place is very important. So when I begin any task, I want to have all my ingredients prepared and ready to go, so I'm not trying to do things while I'm cooking. Everything has a place. Everything is prepared. And this is important of mise en place, have everything ready. We have our bruleed onions just about finished. Just check them here. Oh yeah, so you can see the quality of that caramelization on there. And that will give this, in part, a very deep, rich color. And that's the difference between what we do in our restaurant and what we do at home. We don't brulee our onions. We get all of our color from our veal stock through the tomato product that we use. We're going to go ahead and add our tomato product here, chopped tomatoes. We want to let that cook until all of the water has been evaporated. So you can see the pot on the bottom is bruleed as well from the onions, and that's totally fine. That's normal. Again, listening to your food, it's a clear sign of the degree of doneness. When I put those tomatoes in there at first, we heard this very violent reaction, not only because of the temperature of the tomatoes, but also because of the amount of water that was in the tomatoes. As the temperature of the tomatoes became consistent with the cooking surface, we lost a little bit of that noise. And as the water evaporates, we'll lose even more of that sound, that noise. You can also see what's happening is the liquid from the tomatoes is glazing on the bottom of our pressure cooker here, which is really a good thing. So it starts to turn brown. You can see that. It starts to take on a brown color from the red to brown. And that's an important element, again, giving it that rich color that we want. They're really starting to break down now, and that's a good thing. Almost becoming a tomato paste. So patience here. And I'm using a flat wooden spatula, wooden spoon. And what I'm doing with it, at the same time I'm moving it around, I'm also helping remove some of that glaze on the bottom. See there? Just like that. So it doesn't stick too much. Okay? I feel comfortable with this. I'm going to take this off of here. Turn off the fire first. All right. I'm going to go get my bones. It smells like roasted veal. Exactly what it is. So you can see here as well, the juices have glazed to the bottom of this roasting pan, which is just beautiful. We want to be able to capture all that, so we want to be able to deglaze it after we get our bones into our pressure cooker here. So remember, deglazing is a process of glazing. So unless we glaze something, in this case, the juices from the roasted veal have glazed to the bottom of this roaster, we can't really deglaze. Now, there's different ways to deglaze. You can deglaze with liquid, but we'll also sometimes deglaze with a vegetable that has a lot of water in it, like the tomatoes, for example. Okay. I'm going to just get these in here now as well. So I'll turn my fire back on here. Let that get hot so that when I deglaze it, we have this immediate reaction of the water loosening or rehydrating everything that's glazed here. You'll see how the water turns almost brown immediately. And the bottom of the pan becomes clean. And that is really what deglazing is. Okay, now I take the wooden spoon or spatula and being able to use that water as a solvent to remove anything that's glazed on the bottom of our roasting pan. We know this is a jus. So when we roast meat in an oven, whether it's a prime rib, a chicken, a leg of lamb, all of that juice and that glazes on the bottom of our roasting pan is what we make a jus out of. So right now, what we have here is technically a veal jus because we've used the pan drippings to make it. So I'm happy with that. You see that, huh? It's a beautiful color. It's got a beautiful roasted veal aroma to it. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to our pressure cooker. Again, be very careful. All these things are really hot, so I don't have to tell you that safety is paramount in any kitchen. Okay, just let everything gather at the corner before you pour, and then you can see that beautiful jus color that we're so familiar with when we have a jus. Okay. All right, we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients in our liquid. So our onions, mirepoix, our carrots, our bay leaf, our thyme, and our garlic. In this case, our calf's tendon. You could use calf's feet, but we always take the bone out of the calf's foot before we use the skin side. The skin is where all the gelatin is. The bone in that ankle is just a solid bone, so there's not a lot of gelatin in that. And you'll have to work with your butcher to get these things, and that's why it's so important to build relationships with those individuals that are supplying your ingredients. Sometimes they're not always easy to get. Okay, so this is 4 liters or a little over 4 quarts of water that's going in here. We're starting with hot water, which is a little unusual again. Traditionally, in a restaurant, you'd always start with cold water. We want to get this cooking real quickly. We start with cold so that it has an opportunity to start to break down the bones before they start to cook. So we want to get that process going. It also helps eliminate some of the impurities so we can skim that off. Okay, so there we have everything that we need in our veal stock. And already you can see it is a golden brown color from the tomato, from the jus that we got from our roasting of our bones, and even the onion is starting to color the liquid here. Put our lid on our pressure cooker and seal it. The length of time, again, there's a lot of variables in that. Of course, the strength of your stove at home, the burners, these are about 30 BTU. So if you have something that is not as strong, it's going to take a little longer. This will take about 45 minutes. But the thing with the pressure cooker, you don't really have to worry about timing it. The pound per square inch will be your indicator of when it's done. So when this reaches that second bar, you've got 15 pounds per square inch, and you can then take it off. So we see we're at 2 bars. We need to adjust temperature on the burner so that it doesn't start to make a whole lot of noise. And let me just see if I can get it up a little higher so you can hear what I'm talking about, what we want to be able to avoid. You hear it? then we just turn it down where that little whistle or that little hiss subsides. And that's where you want to maintain your temperature. So once you hear that, you just turn it down. We've reached our second bar there. Turn it all the way down to a simmer. Remember, it's hot. It's going to stay hot. It'll stay at that temperature. Just to show you, releasing a little bit of that steam. But that's what we have inside our pressure cooker. That's what's happening. All that steam is in there. We've reached our 15 pounds per square inch. Our second bar, you see that? Now we're going to let that simmer for 90 minutes. We're back to our safe zone here. We have no pressure in our pressure cooker, so we can release the lid, and then we can start skimming. The interesting thing about a pressure cooker is, as you may know or may not know, it's not boiling as it's cooking. So the stock is much cleaner than when we actually simmer stocks in our restaurant on the stove. And that's why we continuously are removing the impurities. In this case, it's never boiled. So simply take it off. We do have some fat on top, as you can see. But just to get a sense of how clear this stock is, it's a beautiful, beautiful color and clarity. I'm going to go ahead and start to remove some of the larger pieces here. So we have a skimmer. Again, helps us remove all of these. So when we do our first strain into our larger chinois, we don't have the pieces of bone or large pieces of vegetable splattering all over. Again, we're going to try to work as neatly as possible. So removing this ahead of time is going to help. And the aromas, again, the aromas are just beautiful. You can see that onion brulee is still there. Our carrots, our onions. This is that tendon we cooked in there, and it's just perfectly cooked. This is something that I would save and eat. And even the meat that we have here from our veal, the ossobuco, as drained as it is from all of its nutrients and most of its flavor, we can still use this. Again, it's very. I'm feeling. When I'm touching this, I get a lot of stickiness on my fingers. So the gelatin from our tendons as well as from our bones and our meat fibers have really done what we want them to do, which is give it the body that what we're looking for. Okay, so I have most of my bones out. And again, do what you want with this. I mean, it is some beautiful food here. Right. Again, I'm going to work on with a towel underneath, so in case I spill, the towel is going to absorb anything that I spill. So, trying to work cleanly and neatly, safety. So just as a rule of thumb, you see this is a china cap which has very large holes in it. The rule is the larger the product that you're straining, the larger the hole of your china cap. There may be times when you use a colander to strain and then go through a china cap and then go through a chinois. Okay, so we're going to stop, right? As I always stop just before I start to pour. And you see this, even this pressure cooker has a rolled edge on it, which helps us pour in a steady stream. Stop, pause just for a moment to let it all settle, and then begin pouring. We've done our first strain. It's wonderful. We've done a good job. And then we'll do our second strain through our screen fine mesh strainer here. We have China caps that are also fine mesh. So. And just again, gently, wait till it comes to settle so it's not moving around when you start to pour. Again, you see this, even this container has a rolled edge on it. So it helps it stream nice and easily. Keep going slow. You saw how I got a little splatter there, but it was absorbed immediately by the cotton towel underneath the... Mm-hmm. It's not straining as fast now because it's collecting the little pieces of meat and vegetable. So we want to slow down just a little bit. You take a spoon or a utensil and just tap on the edge, and that'll accelerate it. You can already start to see what's collecting on the inside there. Okay, we'll go ahead and again start. Wait till it settles. 4. I would never put any pressure or stir with anything for fear of breaking or damaging the fine mesh strainer, the screen. So if you poke a hole in it or damage it, then you're pretty much done. So just to be cautious and understand what you need to maintain your tools and your equipment. Always take that in consideration. Now I'm just gonna move it around here. Patience. Okay, well, almost a little more. The centrifugal force, this is a lot of, that's what we have in there. We still want to. Okay, there we go, we discard that. And we have our beautiful roasted, pressure-cooked fond de veau, or veal stock. You can see the fat is already rising to the surface, which is great. We put this one we made yesterday, and we refrigerated it. You can see it's a little trick that we always use in a restaurant when we have anything hot that hasn't gone in the refrigerator yet. We put something underneath it to create a void where air can pass through. Helps cool it down. We have ice baths where we set the entire container in an ice bath, or sometimes they have these ice sticks. It's a plastic stick that's filled with water and frozen. Of course, the plastic is cleaned, and then they're actually submerged inside a stock pot or soups or things like that. So you're cooling it from the inside out with ice without adding ice to it. Okay, so we could just now, the fat, we could just go ahead and clean off of our veal stock. Now you can save this fat and use it for different things wherever fat is needed. Now you can see it move around like Jell-O. And that we've done a good job at extracting all of that gelatin from the protein and from the bones. And certainly that added piece of tendon has helped as well. And that's what you want. You want to have that. It needs to feel like it's Jell-O. then you know you've achieved a really nice veal stock. As we make our sauces, we'll continue to clean always, because there'll always be a little fat left. But we'll skim that out as we go. Sometimes when we were in our kitchens and we'd make these beautiful consommes, and there was a little sheen of fat on top of the consomme when it was hot, we would take a paper towel and just lay it on top so the paper towel would absorb that little bit of fat that was on top of the consomme, if there was fat on top of the consomme. We have almost 4 liters of beautiful roasted veal stock. And I say roasted because it has the flavor of the roasted veal bones. This is going to become the foundation for a number of different sauces that we're going to make.